The story you're about to see is 52% true. The other 48% is a complete lie. I leave it to you, the viewing audience, to conclude which part is which. This is the story of frightfully bizarre proportions. It is a story of cataclysm, disaster, and destruction, and spatulas. This is the story of a man named Bill. Bill was born at the age of 12 in a fictitious town called Beige Camel. His father, Margaret, who was born 8 years later, worked at a vitamin factory stuffing little balls of cotton into bottles of aspirin. He would later grow weary of the vitamin racket and move on to become America's foremost authority on sock puppet clothing. His mother, Byron, who wasn't born at all, could often be found searching through underground sewage systems for a small piece of taupe fabric to match the one that her grandmother had carved for her on Bastille Day the week before, and again the day after. On July 13th, 1945, and continuing through December 5th, 1984, at the Holy Sisters of Brotherhood Hospital and Taxidermy Shop, Bill was born. 2 weeks later, Bill was born a second time, claiming he'd made a few mistakes the first time and he wanted to get it right. We spoke with Bill's father, Margaret, and he had this to say.
8 gallons of antifreeze.
No. Next, we asked him to talk about Bill, and then he told us this.
Sure, I remember Bill as if he were my own son.
He is your son, sir.
What I mean to say is I remember him as if he were my son.
What can you tell us about Bill as a child?
Well, I'll never forget the day he was born. I remember it was about 2:30 in the afternoon. Remember that because Jeopardy wasn't going to be on for about another 5 hours. Remember the wife saying, "Margaret, cat's on fire." Code we used so our deaf neighbor Mrs. Palmerville wouldn't eavesdrop on the family conversations. So I got the shotgun, a lampshade, about 2 pounds of margarine, and went off to the chicken coop. Halfway to the hospital, I remember we don't have a chicken coop. About a year after that, Bill was born, and again about a year after that.
Getting less than nothing from the father, we then interviewed Bill's mother, Byron.
8 gallons of antifreeze. Or did my husband already tell you that?
Yes. Well, what can you tell us about Bill as a child?
Well, he did have the bad habit of sticking his head in the toilet and screaming, "Auntie-M, Auntie-M," until our deaf neighbor, Mrs. Palmerville, would call the police. Also, a few days later, he moved to Istanbul for 5 years, and he came back with a box of broken light bulbs, which he fed to the cat.
I see. And how did Bill get along with other children in the neighborhood?
Oh, he had them deported to Madagascar.
What?
Well, except for the girls, whom he traded on the black market for livestock. Bill was such an enterprising young tyke.
We then went to the place where Bill was supposedly properly educated, the Dave Lavoie Memorial Elementary School and Ferret Farm. Here we spoke with some of his former teachers.
Oh yes, I remember little Bill. He used to sharpen his pencils with his teeth. Some days he'd use someone else's teeth.
Well, Bill never did his assignments. He kidnapped my wife, he caused disturbances in class, and he ate most of the college chalk. Oh yes, and he was president of the student council for 3 years.
He still owes me money.
They say you learn something new every day. With Bill, it's more like every other day.